All right, so now fuel, what's fuel? All right, gauze, sponge, hair, clothing, right, drapes, surgical towels, all that stuff is fuel, right? So we've got our oxidizer, we've got our fuel, okay? Now all we need is that other ingredient, and that is, that's our heat source. So ChloraPrep, help me out. Minimum dry time for ChloraPrep is? 3 minutes. If it's in hair, up to an hour, right? And so that's not practical. So as nurses, what do? You shave it off, right? Sorry, it's all gotta go. If it's particularly like where you can't shave it off, you can use like a water-based lubricant. I've never really seen that. They just cut the hair off, but I'm told that that is an option. So with that, it does pool in places though too. So we got to be careful with that. Underneath skin, like folds, belly button, in and around the patients. I've had, in the last few years, I've had nurses say they'll just roll up some surgical towels and they'll place them in and around the patient or in and around the surgical site to prevent that from rolling off the individual. And so that ChloraPrep gets captured on the surgical towel versus now it's underneath the individual, and now I've basically got a flammable item underneath the patient. So that is an option for you. It all is, I guess, depending on what's going on. You can use betadine, so that as an option. We're going to practice this later on. We got our ignition sources in the room: cautery, light cords, fiber, lasers. I'm not sure if it's a policy here, but I'm told that in and around the surgical site with a laser, what do we use? What do we keep? Right, wet towels. Just, it makes sense. I don't know why it would have to be a policy. It just makes sense, but it could be. So I go back to my original statement of, you know what, honestly, having a fire should be relatively easy. You have all of these protection features in and around this place. So some people have never seen what happens when a sprinkler head actually activates in a room. That's not a good time for us to be in that environment, okay? Again, it's a lot of water. So the water that's been in the pipes, maybe a year, right? Since the last time it was really flushed out and tested. So what's that gonna look like, right? I'm okay with, throwing mud at a fire, that's fine, it'll still go out. But even you, right, you can take a shower at the end of the day, it's not a big deal. But what if you get it in your eyes? That's what concerns me, right? If we're in the room, there's basically dirty water spraying everywhere. If you get it in your eyes, now I'm what? Like, I'm disoriented, I can't see to get out. We're just becoming a part of the problem. And so we don't want that to happen either. Now, when that does happen, it's one at a time. It's not like in Die Hard where Bruce Willis, takes a lighter and, activates and they all go off. That's not how it works, one at a time. 165 degrees-ish is where it was really about when they go off. Okay, so if you hold your hand over a candle, right, 165 degrees, that's hot, like whoo. But in relation to a fire, that's not that hot. So we just have to remember that if there's a fire in the room, it's not a negotiation. We ain't staying, right? We're getting the heck out of Dodge, because if we stay, that sprinkler head's gonna activate. Watch what happens here, okay? Now this is a small room. My comfort level with smoke and fire is probably a little bit different compared to yours, but it's like, okay, we've got a little bit of time here to get out of the room, or we're just not gonna go in. Sprinkler head's gonna activate. Now, it does what it's designed to do. We throw massive amounts of water at the fire, it's gonna go out. But look what's left over, right? So that's not a good time for us to be in the room. Now we're disoriented, and anytime I put cool water on a fire, what happens? What do I create? Steam, right? And so now we've got steam in the room, potentially we're getting burned, we've got smoke, we're breathing it in. It's not a good environment for us to be in. Just do what's right, right? Like, take care of your patient, take care of one another, let's go. Let's get out of here. See any problems there? Right? Like, holy cow. Now with this is a hospital out in California. I walk into one of their OR pods and I turn the corner and I see this, okay? I'm not here to point fingers. I'm not here to pick on people, right? But this is a reality for them. So I was like, all right, so if there's a fire at the front door, how do we get out? And they were like, we don't. I was like, whoa. Okay, so that's their Pyxis machine. That took them a while to get that moved, but eventually they did clear out all that space. It's a life safety thing, right? Like, there has to be more than just one way in, one way out. Now with this, again, I understand we're all busy, blocking fire extinguishers, things on pallets in the hallways, but here's the deal, okay? Fire doors. Should we ever block open a fire door? No, okay? It's a life safety thing, okay? So I'm not trying to make you a snitch, not, right? I understand that. I'm like, you have the fire guy in the building and you blocked open a fire door? Like, what was wrong? And the magnet wasn't working. So they were frustrated, so they just propped the door open. That'll never close. Now with that is also active shooter, right? A good way to keep yourself alive is to place a barrier between you and that individual. I can't do that if the door's wedged open. You're not gonna stand there and fight that door, okay? Again, simple things here. We just reduced the amount of space in the hallway. Very simple here. I understand, at times, right, like room, we don't have enough room. We just don't have enough space. So any questions on that? Okay. Now, what do we know about fires? Fires are faster and hotter than they've ever been. Why is that? Like back when I first was on the job, back when I was a kid, my father would explain things like this, and like the TV at home, right? Like click, 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 a nice solid wood TV, okay? What are TVs made of now? I'm not saying they're not high quality, right? Plastic, synthetic materials, all of that stuff is in your environment. And so when stuff like that starts to burn, the smoke that is released from that, right, is lethal. We can't breathe that stuff in. It's just not healthy for us, okay? So we don't want that to happen, because now you're just becoming a part of the problem. You're adding to the problem. So the less staff members that we have to help, the harder it becomes for everyone else. Now with this, a fire in the patient, okay? I think AORN says that we're supposed to remove the items that are on fire first, and then put them on the floor to put them out. Does that make any sense? Right? So we have to deal with the fire first, okay? It's not up for negotiation. So there's a number of different things that we have that's available to us, okay? Not even the fire extinguisher. Again, right, you're all smart. You just gotta be quick on your toes. So what do we have available? Surgical towels, blankets, sheets, all of that stuff. As a last resort, like if we really didn't have much of anything, like as far as material, you may have to take off your scrub, right? To use that, to be quick about these things. So the first thing we're gonna announce is fire in the OR, turn off the gases. Again, it's right at the machine. And the reason for that is eventually if we did put the fire out, if it wasn't the ET tube, they can get back in there, they can use room air. Eventually they may even be able to use oxygen depending on what's going on, okay? So let's deal with the fire first. We have, again, a bunch of different options. Always, 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 scrub tech, circulators, what do we always have with us that's next to us? Liquid, should be in a bowl, right? Our saline, our sterile water, okay? Don't splash it, pour it, okay? Because the fire may be in a cavity, or there may be some gauze that's on fire or something like that, okay? Make sense? Okay. Fire is in the patient. Oh boy. So again, now this is a little bit of a higher risk. They have to cut the gases off. They have to disconnect. They pull the tube out. For our scrub techs, you're gonna have to bring the bowl of saline over to them. Okay, unless there's like an anesthesia tech in the room, if you have that as an option, you can give it to the anesthesia tech. Flushes, again, they may be able to get back in there and reinsert another airway or LMA. And if they can't do that, then they have their emergency procedures and they have their second options, things like that, okay? Any questions on that?